It's really hot here in California. I don't know. How are you guys? I mean, it's like 108 or something nutty. Screen is shared here. Hang on one sec. And I'm excited because I got highlighted in Sacramento Real Producers magazine, and it came out today. So I'll be posting that. And Angie got highlighted last month. So she's a superstar. And
thank you.
I got highlighted this month, so it's kind of cool. I don't, you guys probably can all relate, especially since I think we're all, oh no, we have Kevin here, but I was going to say we're all women, but Kevin, you're here too. So we won't throw you in that pile. Is that, you never like your pictures, right? And so some of you, well, all of you should know I went through breast cancer. So my hair was short and I went through this, my first phase, I decided to color it like a deep burgundy. And I hated it after I did it. Of course, that's when the pictures were taken for the magazine. So there you go. So back to my little bit more highlighted hair, and I'm adjusting. So anyway, let me share my screen and let's get this party started. All right, can you guys see my screen? Perfect. All right, so let's get started. I'm Marguerite Crespillo. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of Real Estate 101. Tonight, we're going to talk about an awesome topic. This is very timely for you, Angie. I know you're looking at getting somebody hired or got someone hired. I know I'm trying to get someone hired as well. So I will be posting the forms that I use in this class. I'll post them in the group and I'll see if Kira can attach them to any emails that are going out. But I'm excited to be here tonight. It's only 108 degrees here in sunny North California, not North Carolina, Northern California, and it's super hot. And as I've said before, I'm going through a major remodel, so we do have air conditioning upstairs. Thank goodness, because I might have had to cancel because I would have been melting for sure. So let's talk about how to delegate the stuff you hate. How many of you would love to do that? This has been a great lesson for me myself, having been in real estate now going on 28 years. I'm a recovering control freak, as probably most of you are as well. And so we really struggle with delegating things. We think nobody can do it as good as we can. And the truth is, you can do anything, but you cannot do everything, right? And we think that nobody can do a good job as good as us. And the truth is they actually can do the job better than us in many situations. Why? Because they actually get it done. Where we are spending way too much time trying to make everything perfect that we're not actually getting things done. We've got big old long to-do lists and we're frustrated and we're stressed out and we're just trying to do it all, right? We don't want anything to go sideways or have issues or problems with anything. And at the end of the day, we're not getting done nearly what we think we could get done. I'll give you guys a perfect example. So years and years ago, I used to do a Christmas party every year. And it started out with about 25 or 30 of my friends. I wanted to have the party because I wanted a good excuse to get all dressed up and make our significant others get dressed up, right? So I started having these parties and I was literally, this is when my kids were young, I was literally doing all the decorating of my entire house because I'd have it at my house. I was prepping and preparing all of the food, putting everything out, serving everybody, cleaning up the mess. And I was literally exhausted and so stressed out. I didn't have any fun at the party because I was so busy doing everything that I didn't get to entertain my guests or spend time with them. And then I'll never forget when my friend Molly said, hey, there's this little service out there called Meticulosity. And for $25 an hour, they'll send somebody out to help you set up, help you clean up, and serve the food so that you can actually enjoy your party. I was like, really? And I did the math and I thought, if I had 2 of them show up for 4 hours to my party, that would only be $200. And it was a game changer when I started adding up the math. Not only that, but what if I could get someone else to pay for it? Even better, right? So from that point on, for a lot of my parties and events, I would literally hire all the helpers and I would get sponsors to pay for it. Okay. So these are just little like aha moments and bright lights that showed up in my life that showed me that I don't have to do it all. And so always remember, this is a hard one. In real estate, there are no life-threatening emergencies. Now, we like to think there are. We like to think it's the end of the world, and our clients many times will make us feel like it's the end of the world. But the truth is they're not. And I've even noticed this in training and mentoring agents. They think it's the end of the world. I need to know immediately right now. And I've had situations like we bought some land recently up in the mountains. And the best part about that land is when I get there, I have no signal. So I can't respond to anybody because I don't even know they called, right? And what I've found is that when you give people 24 hours many times, they have this weird, quirky way of figuring things out, right? Like even many times you guys can relate to this with your kids. Like my son yesterday, it was about 8 o'clock at night when I got home, and he said, "Mom, I called you like 5 times today." And I was like, "Well, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, I just had this situation happening." I said, "Well, that was certainly not an emergency, John." And on top of that, if I would have called him 5 times, he wouldn't have answered his phone, right? How many of you guys have kids and they never answer their phone? You have to text them or send smoke signals after them. So the truth is there are no life-threatening emergencies in real estate, despite what we think is an emergency, okay? So I had an agent today even who was trying to do some projects on some things she was working on. She's like, "I can't figure this out." And I'm like, "Well, what could you do if you took a few minutes, slowed down, and actually read through the instructions? What could you actually accomplish?" And she was all stressed out. I said, "Worst case scenario, take a break, walk away, come back in 15 minutes, and you'll figure it out." Right? So I'm not saying that I'm not here to help people or I'm not here to support you and encourage you. What I'm saying is that we do this not only with our family, but we do this as well with our clients in our life. And what it does is it creates this divide between many times you and your family. A lot of times your family is frustrated, upset, stressed out that you're never available to them, but you're always available to clients. So how does that make your most important people in your life feel when you're responding to things that override your feelings with your family, right? So let's talk about this. What if you could take a few days and literally write down every single thing you do in a day, from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to sleep at night? If I had a video camera following you around all day, what would I actually see you doing? And write down all the things you do in a day. I'm talking about responding to email, responding to text, doing property searches on the MLS, setting up showings, installing lock boxes, ordering signs. Like, think about all the things you do. In fact, here's kind of a quick list, right? Emails, voicemail, follow-up calls, postcards, Facebook, dry cleaning, right? Dealing with website leads, new listing tasks and jobs, buyer appointments, sign installation, database calls, Craigslist ads, pulling expired listings, seller calls, paperwork, listing data entry, property marketing, partner contact, right? This is just a small list of the things that you do in a day. Now, I'll encourage you, there are also things that you do personally at home. Like, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I've had a house manager for 27 years, okay? Now, originally, she was a nanny for my kids when they were little. And now my kids are 24 and 26, and everyone says, "How come you still have a nanny?" I said, "Well, she was actually always a nanny there for me, not just there for my kids," right? And so she has literally done laundry, cooking, cleaning, takes care of all kinds of things in our home so that I could be a better mom for my kids. She's the best person in my life, literally the most important person in my life, and worth every single penny that I spend for her. And so, funny story, not too long ago, we got a new washer dryer, this whole fancy thing, right? And my husband does not like the way that our house manager does laundry. So he has learned to do his own laundry. I'm like, I'm totally fine with that. I, on the other hand, don't do laundry. I've not done laundry in 27 years. I hate laundry. Like I'm the type of person who I put it in the washer, I forget it's in the washer. And so then I have to wash it 3 times because now it all smells bad, right? Then I finally get it done into the dryer and then it sits in the dryer and I forget to fold it. So then everything's all wrinkled. I hate doing laundry. It's just, there's a little known fact about me. I hate doing laundry. And so they show up with the new washer dryer, right? And the guy's like, comes in and he's setting it all up. And he goes, okay, Mrs. Crespillo, would you like me to show you a few things on the washer and dryer and how to run it? And my husband busts out laughing. He goes, you should probably show me. So there you go. I hate doing laundry. So, I encourage you to make this list of everything that you do in your life, not just in your business, but personally, the things that are important to you. I hate washing my car. I've gotten my husband to take my car and get it washed, right? All these little things that you really don't like to do, how can you delegate it? Can you find somebody for 20, 25 bucks an hour who will come and clean your bathrooms for you or do your laundry or come and pick up your car and get it washed? Like I discovered there's this great detailing guy and he'll come to my house or my place of work, wherever I'm at, and he'll detail and wash my car. Best money I spend having that guy come and get my car cleaned out from inside out. It's amazing, right? So make yourself a long list of all the things that you actually do not like to do and what you do like to do. And so like, let's look at this, for example. Let's say that all these things that you hate, guess what that is? That is your new job description, okay? So for example, if you wanted to have an administrative assistant, pick up your dry cleaning. You wanted them to get your postcards ready and sent out and prepped. You wanted them to handle a lot of the paperwork or listing data entry or your laundry, for goodness sake. What things could you actually delegate to that person? Because here's the thing, you guys, what is your hourly rate? What are you worth per hour? I know for me, when I did my math and I figured out how many homes I sold last year, and I did it by the hours that I work, I'm worth about $300 an hour. Okay. Now, maybe your hourly rate is not that high because your production is at a different level. What could you do to increase your production? On average, to make about 100,000 a year, that means you're worth about $50 an hour. So you guys are doing work that could easily pay somebody anywhere between 10 and 20, $15 to $25 an hour, but you're doing that work. So could you hire somebody 10, 20, 30 hours a week at $15 to $25 an hour to help you with these things? And would that help you sell one more house, right? One more house would be more than enough to potentially cover their compensation, okay? Now for me, I've had an assistant since the day I got into real estate, and I always hired them full-time because I knew that if I had somebody full-time, I would have full-time work available for them. Now, whether you hire someone part-time or full-time, something to keep in mind. What I have found with part-time helpers is they have a part-time way that they function and they operate. Okay, not everybody, but I can tell you that I have found that it motivates me to have somebody full-time. So look at this kind of job description, right? So I wrote out the Crespillo Group is currently recruiting for a listing administrative assistant for our sales team, right? This gives a general idea of the work hours, when they're available. We need somebody that's dependable. Occasionally, this position is required to work on a Saturday, and in that case, an alternate day off can be arranged. But these are all the skills in somebody that I'm looking for who could fill this particular position if that's what I wanted, right? So we would want this person to have strong computer skills, strong telephone skills, great client rapport, understanding if possible of disclosures and inspections, ability and willingness to meet inspectors. I mean, just imagine, you guys, if you had somebody who could go put on lock boxes and meet your inspectors every week, right? Now, I have a husband who does that for me now, but he's retired, so he's able to do that. So what could you do to actually delegate these tasks to somebody else, right? Could be somebody you're hiring for the summer, lots of choices. So let's talk about writing a great ad for the job. I like detailed job descriptions, meaning I want somebody who can specifically follow instructions. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that God does not put a great administrative person and a salesperson typically in the same body, okay? which means that we as real estate agents many times are very good, strong salespeople, but we suck at the details. I mean, let's be honest. We're not really the best detail-oriented people. And so you want somebody who has different skills than you, okay? And so creating a great job description is a great way to start. And you can utilize that same list of the things that you hate to write this job description, right? And so you'll notice in here, what's funny, I put specific instructions at the bottom. It says, please do not fax or call the office. Well, as you can tell, this is a little dated. We don't have faxes anymore. But the bottom line is, put something in there that is specific instructions for them to follow. Like, what drives me crazy is when I give them detailed instructions, like it says, please email your resume along with a cover letter detailing your experience, strengths, and talents and why we should hire you to this email. I'll tell you that years ago, I hired Chris, who was my marketing director for 10 years, one of the best hires I ever made. The guy's extraordinary. Still one of my very, very good friends. And when I was looking for that position, I'll tell you that what I wanted is he was going to be my marketing director. So I wanted to make sure that he had computer skills, and I wanted to make sure that he had badass computer skills, right? So I said, look, I wanted him to create a presentation. In fact, he actually created this presentation. I wanted him to send it to me in a PDF document and a Word document and a PowerPoint document. Why? Because I wanted to know that he could convert anything to all of those different types of documents, right? I can tell you when I ran that ad, I probably had 200 responses. And out of all of those responses, Chris was literally the only one who followed all of the instructions to the detail, right? And I'll never forget when I hired him, I was like, I'm going to hire this guy on the spot. And he literally followed all of the instructions in the ad, okay? Now, he will be the first to tell you that he is not an extraordinary salesperson, right? Not his talent, not his skill, but he's an extraordinary marketing director. So keep in mind what you want for that position. We're going to talk a little bit more about deciding who to hire. So there are many different types of assistants that you can hire, right? And they do different things for brokers or agents at different times. Whether or not the person is licensed makes a big difference in what they can do, at least in my state of California. If you're in other states across the country, you'll want to make sure that you can check on the details of what those are, right? But like your administrative person can be somebody who's great at paperwork, can deal with some of the contract to close details, database management, running, hanging lock boxes, deliver contracts, etc. Marketing could be somebody who's doing prospecting for you, responding to leads, creating, managing marketing programs, blogging, and social media. New agent could be someone who wants to work on the team, learn all the business of a real estate operation before becoming a sales agent with a quota. Personal assistant is someone to help me with my job in a year, like when I had health issues, and if I could afford it, I'd have a personal assistant for the rest of my life, right? Personal assistant can be somebody who runs and picks up your dry cleaning, somebody who, handles a lot of the details, that kind of thing. This is important to keep in mind. In the beginning, when you first hire somebody, they could be all of these things, right? Not necessarily. I mean, you could utilize a new agent to help with this, but again, God does not put a salesperson in the same body that he puts a administrative person. He just doesn't. So what requirements should be submitted to be considered? Well, first of all, I really strongly recommend you all have anybody who's applying for the job send in a DISC profile test. You can get these done free on TonyRobbins.com. I get them through Workman Success Systems, my coaching group that I'm with. You can pay for them. You can ask them to pay for them, whatever it is you want. But I'll tell you what, this is one of the best things I've ever done in my career. So look at these different types of personalities. And this is a guide to interpreting different DISC results, right? So a high D is somebody who's very dominant, very driven, solves new problems very quickly, assertively. They're not so great at organization or thinking through new problems, things like that, right? An I is somebody who's highly influential. They love people, right? They're your big huggers when you go to a party. They can't wait to see you. They're the social butterfly of the party. And these people are extraordinary. They talk. Mitzi and I always tease each other because Mitzi is a very high I, I'm a very high D. And Mitzi is the kind who, sends me these long, flowery text messages with all kinds of emojis and stuff, right? And I'm a get to the bottom line, get to the point. I'm like, okay, thanks. All right, type of person. Your S's and C's are really your best administrative people. They're your steady as it goes. They're people who just cruise along, same pace. They adhere to the rules, right? They prefer to be more in a more controlled and predictable environment. They are great administrative people. And your C's, for example, Chris was a high C. I'm going to show you these different personalities. You'll see them in a moment. So for example, this is my actual disc profile. And as you can see, I'm a 99B. 99% of my personality is I'm very driven, I'm very much a visionary. I'm a get to the point. I'm a Reader's Digest kind of version kind of person, right? And so the interesting thing about this is that has been my personality. And so I've learned to forewarn people, especially administrative staff or people who work for me, that, hey, I just want you to know, here's a copy of my personality test. I encourage you to read it. Please don't take anything personal. It doesn't mean I don't like you or don't care about you. It just means I'm busy and I'm not paying attention, right? Because I'm not that type of person. So this right here was my team manager. As you can see, my team manager is a high S, steady as they go. She or he is the one who makes sure that details happen, that things are flowing consistently all the time, right? The same thing happens every day, day in, day out. This is super important to see. Look how different these personality profiles are. Can you see the difference in them? Now look at this one. This was Chris, my marketing director. And on Chris's, you can see that he is very high C, which means he really likes things orderly. He's a rule follower. He likes things very clean and concise, which is why he was an extraordinary marketing director, right? Like this one back here was Heather Sims, who was my team manager for 11 years during the REO crisis, right? So you can see how everybody on my team had very different personalities and was very perfect for their job. There's a great book out there called Good to Great. And in Good to Great, what they say is get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seat, right? So for example, if I were to put Chris into a sales position, selling real estate, he's probably going to really struggle and he's going to feel like a failure when he's not a failure at all. It's just not his style or his personality, right? Now, Heather, on the other hand, was extraordinary with people. She's great customer service. She kept everything running smoothly, but she's not that person who's going to go out there and sell 100 homes a year. Again, not anything wrong with her. Doesn't mean she's a failure. It just means she has a very different personality. She's extraordinary with clients. Clients love her. They think she's, the best thing since sliced bread. She even at one point said I was not allowed to respond to email. So she would make sure that people were taken care of where I would get too busy and not necessarily follow through, right? So again, this is all the important aspects of choosing somebody with a very different personality. And I just love these. So what can you do about training? Well, the single most common mistake is not properly training people to do the job that you want done, right? I call it the seagull approach. Typically, salespeople fly in, they dump a bunch of crap on the desk and they fly out. And then they're frustrated when the staff person doesn't follow through with all the work that's on their desk. Well, you never trained them. You never gave them a priority list. You never really helped them understand the details of how and why you wanted things. And so this is vitally important in having a clear objective. Is extremely important to the success of your assistant. So I'm really good at explaining to somebody why I want things done and why it's important to me, because I'm one of those kids who, if you just said do it because I said so, that never worked for me, right? And so taking that time up front to really define their responsibilities, your expectations, and overall goals will make a huge difference in their success and your happiness overall in who you hired. Now, I encourage you to set some goals for your assistant. Be as specific as possible in creating goals, using exact numbers and deadlines whenever possible. Remember, the person that you're hiring is somebody who loves details. While you may not, they love it. So, For example, if you want them to make outbound calls, well, how many do you want them to make? How many mailers do you want sent? How many leads do you want them generating? What are some long-term goals, and making sure that you're meeting quarterly to evaluate, right? Now, I will tell you, many of us think that assistants just love money. Well, of course, they want to get paid, but the top 5 reasons that employees stay with their boss are: number 1, exciting work and challenge, right? Number 2, career growth, learning and development. Number 3, working with great people. Of course, they want fair pay. Like, you're not going to find somebody $10 an hour who has the skills that you want in many situations, right? Number 5, being a supportive manager and a good boss. These are all things. And I'll tell you that another one that is one of the top is having some sort of benefits. I encourage you guys, there are payroll services out there that you can set up for one employee. You use those to do things right, okay? You're not going to find a great assistant who wants to get paid when you close a deal. That's just not their personality, right? There's 2 different types of people. There are people that love to get paid on results, and there are people who love to get paid for time. And your administrative people are typically, in most cases, people who like to get paid for time. They like to get paid by the hour. They're the person who can leave at 5 o'clock, go home and turn it off. Real estate salespeople, not typically their personality. We like to get paid on results, which is why we get paid really well. People who get paid on results are always going to get paid better in most situations than somebody who gets paid for time, okay? If at all possible, record or document the training process. Have your new admin assistant record the training process, right? If a task is done on a computer, use a screen capture program like Camtasia or Screencast or Jing to record the actual process for use at a later date, or training additional assistants in the future. Document your processes step by step on how to complete the task in a Word document. Write that task out, give it to your assistant, have them follow that process and add the details or things you might have missed. A lot of times, if you go back to those 3 or 4 times, by the time you've gotten that done, now you both get it, right? But just flying by, dumping the crap on their desk and saying, get this done, is not training, okay? Create a folder on a shared drive that you guys can share so that future team members can access it, right? If the primary person responsible is not available to complete it. For example, this is detailed instructions, right? Literally with screenshots on how to order a sign with our logins and password information, right? How to actually place the new order, what's required. This is detailed instructions so that somebody could literally sit, print this out if they wanted to, or open it on their screen and follow these detailed instructions on how to install a sign. You know, people say, oh, well, that's common sense, or how hard can that be? I love when people use the word common sense, because the truth is common sense is not so common. How you know how to do this is the experience that you've had over the years, right? If you guys have questions too, don't hesitate to post something in the chat box, or we can answer questions when we're done. So again, this is a great example, and I just noticed a spelling error, so we need to correct that, right? Of how to install a sign, right? Performance reviews. Ideally, after hiring an assistant, you should schedule formal reviews, 30, 60, 90 days. Everybody loves and hates reviews, right? The best thing about a review is to tell them all the things they're doing right and get their feedback on what you could do to help them do better, right? Meaning, like, no employee wants to do a bad job. Nobody wants to do a bad job. The reason we don't hire great people is because we don't take the time to train them, right? So make sure you're going over deadlines, quality of work, the quantity of work. Sometimes too, you might have a staff person in place and they're just overwhelmed. I've been to that situation many times where there's just too many things on their plate that they're not able to keep up. And they start to feel like a failure, and you'll quickly lose them. Meeting regularly. Set time each week to meet and review progress, wins, losses. Even a daily huddle is amazing and is a game changer for you and your team. Ask for feedback on how processes can be improved. Keep them in the loop and include them in planning of projects that they'll be involved with. Like, they love having goals, and they love having goals that work for both them and you, right? So think about this, right? is that we all want these lists of things to do and how important it is. And it's just really important that you put all this together for your staff person and have them help you with it, okay? So how to decide how much to pay. This is kind of key. I recommend, we're always trying to get by and do things cheap, and I get that. But if you really want somebody good, I've paid as high as $25 to $30 an hour. Best money I ever spent. They took way more off my plate than the $15 an hour person, right? Like one of my friends is always hiring really young people who don't really have any job skills because she can get them at a discounted price. And she goes through people all the time. It's really difficult, right? So these are things to really keep in mind, is making, you're better off hiring somebody for a little bit more money and a little bit less hours than hiring somebody for a lot of hours at less money. Just my opinion. Creating some sort of daily checklist, okay? For example, this is a quick daily checklist that we created that really literally has the script on it. This is for an admin person who was calling our database. It has the scripts, who they called, what the comments were. I love this at the bottom where it says, I feel like I did a fabulous job today, but could use some additional training in the following area. This is a great way for your admin to reach back out to you and say, hey, I'm struggling in this area, without feeling stupid or feeling like they don't know what to do, right? Even this one, I have the following suggestions on how we can improve service to our clients and improve our systems to make their job easier. Like, how cool is that, right? This is one of my favorite sayings, is inspect what you expect. In other words, if you ask them to do something and then you never follow up with it, and then a month later you find out they didn't do it right, whose fault is that? It's really your fault. Make sure that you're going back and you're checking and you're following up and you're going back and forth until you really have confidence both in them and they have confidence in you to be able to do a great job, okay? Now, I will tell you, this is something that a lot of people don't love and they don't get it, but I actually use a shared inbox. I have one email address that everything goes to, that I share with my team. And that way I can see what's come in and what's come out. It also means that if they leave and I don't have that person anymore, I always have access to their email. So for example, I have client services at the Crespillo group, right? I have, and that's the email that everybody on my team uses. Back when I had REOs, it would be, our REO team at Realty First when I was at Realty First. So I have one shared email that they use and I use. And people go, well, how do they know if it's you or them emailing? Well, they have a signature. So anything that goes from their desk has their signature on it. Anything from my desk has my signature, okay? But I can pop into that email anytime. I have it on my phone because remember, I'm a control freak. And on my phone, I'm actually able to see the emails that come in and what emails go out. So super important. One of the best things I've ever done personally. I don't remember who taught it to me, so I forgive. I'm sorry if I never give them credit. But the bottom line is, how important is it to make sure that you're able to access that information? So all right, you guys, so that's the end of our class. These are a couple of groups that I have with some information. You guys can check out my podcast and others. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if any of you guys have any questions.